Welcome back to another Art of War stream. Welcome everybody. This is the weekly Fix My List, in which our different War members submit their lists. We pick 3 of them, and we go ahead, analyze what the list is trying to do, usually with feedback based from that member, and then edit it based on our own experiences and trying to refine the list to do, fulfill its goals as best as possible. So we do this week in, week out. We rotate between Imperium, Chaos, Eldari. Sometimes we do specific ones, like we did for Codex Tyranids and Marines. So this one is going to be for Imperium-based armies, and we're going to be focusing partly on the new Adeptus Mechanicus codex, which is just coming out basically this week.
If we have a new codex, man, we gotta fix them lists.
So a lot of hype there. I'm excited to dive into these. Now, if you like this type of content, please subscribe to the channel, as well as give us a like, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment below, letting us know why you like this feature, as well as also kind of what you think of the list that we fix. If you want to submit your list for Fix My List, please check out the War Room, thewarroom.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial on our own platform, which also gets you access to our iOS and Android apps. In addition to that, you can also sign up on YouTube itself, where there's a tiered system. Any of the 3 different tiers, bronze, silver, or gold, which has varying amounts of content, will give you access to our Discord community as well. And in there, when you're a War member, you can submit your list and fix my list submissions.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we should get right into it, right?
Let's dive right in here.
We've got ourselves an Admech list, a rad cohort list from Davlos in the chat. If you want to read out what's in it, I will pull up any comments.
This is now the Rad Zone Core.
Is it the Rad Zone Core?
It's the Rad Zone Core. So it used to be the Rad Cohort, which was, in my opinion, the single worst detachment in the entire game. Now, it is the Rad Zone Core, and it is much improved. And we'll go through what the Rad Zone Core does in a second. But in this list, we have a Cybernetica Datasmith, which is going to signal Castellan Robot somewhere. Then we have a Tech Priest Dominus with Master Annihilator, the sustained 1 on the Bearer's unit. And then Tech Priest Manipulus with the Omni Sterilizer. It's no longer the Omni Sterilizer. I'll give Jack the new names. But he used to be the Omnipulus. Now he is the Autoclavic Denunciator. It's the Autoclavic Denunciation, or, Denunciation.
There we go.
And Master Annihilator has switched to Peerless Eradicator.
He's peerless.
He is a Peerless Eradicator. But it's the same exact rule set effectively. Now, Autoclavic Denunciation is worse. It no longer grants you the +3 attacks. It gives you anti-infantry 2+, anti-monster 4+, which goes on the transonic cannon on the Manipulus, which is a dev wounds weapon, so it procs those pretty easily. But it no longer has the +3 attacks that it did, and that was the consistency. D6 +3, it's a pretty decent number of attacks all the time. Now it's quite random.
Yeah, it used to be D6 +3, and then it used to splash mortals, so you just like rip entire infantry units off the board, or kill tanks, or whatever.
Or John's Carnifex unit.
But it doesn't do that for a number of reasons. One, not +3 attacks, which means it's a lot worse. The +3 took it from an average, it basically doubled its damage output. Because average of 3.5 going to 6.5 with the +3, it's a big deal. And it no longer splashes mortals because dev wounds are just an unpassable save.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we have a Tech Priest Engine Seer. He's 45 points. Then we have 2 10-man Skitaria Ranger units. They sticky objectives. 2 10-man Vanguard units. They are the OC Manipulation. Very good at that. 2 Scorpius Dune Riders, the transport. 2 Cataphront Breacher units, I assume with all the heavy arc and claws, since that's probably by far
it is the only way to load them out. Let me just double check. Yes, heavy arc rifles and hydraulic. He's 2 in every unit with the torsion cannons. He's 2 in one unit with the torsion cannons.
Right, well,
6 in another unit with the heavy arc rifles. 4 of them in each unit with the arc claw, and 2 in each unit with the hydraulic claw.
Okay, so we're going to simplify this. You take the heavy arc rifle, and then you take the hydraulic claw.
Yeah,
the other ones are anti-infantry, and Admech has actually a ton of random nonsense shots that are good at picking up infantry, so you don't need that for your breachers. You want them to punch up.
Yeah, you want that strength 8, AP2 damage 3. Like you want that good.
Yep. All right, then we got 5 Sakaran Infiltrators for that sweet infiltration and battle shock manipulation. Then we have 3 Cerberus Raiders, little scout unit, 1 Honor Doomcrawler for that 6-inch aura of 4-up invuln if models are wholly within battle line. And then 2 solo Iron Striders, I assume with the Twin Cognis last cannon.
Believe so. Twin Cognis, yes, last cannon.
Then 2 Castellan robots. So,
the Castellan robots in this list have...
Flamer Fist.
Yep, Flamer Fist.
All right. It is the guns are completely terrible, so that's the way to run them. All right.
You just get punch pots?
The punch pots. And then the Flamer is actually pretty decent. Trade 6, AP 1, 1 damage. All right. So, let's start off with the easy part of going through what this detachment actually does.
Yeah,
all right?
That's a good idea.
Since it's pretty new to everybody, and Jack hasn't played against it yet. So, Rad Zone used to be that first battle round, your opponent picks whether they, on a 3-up, take D3 mortals, or whether they're battle shocked until the end of the battle round. Now, it is your opponent picks on a 3-up, they take D3 mortal wounds, or on a 5-up, they take D3 mortals and are battle shocked until the end of the battle round. So now if you pick, I just want to be battle shocked, battle round 1, I don't care, you can still take mortals.
That helps. That helps.
Then battle round 2 onwards is going to be on a 3-up, you take 1 mortal wound. This is if you're within your deployment zone, and then also a battle shock test.
If you're within your deployment. Is it within or wholly within?
All this is within.
Okay.
The Admech rules are all within. So as long as one piece of your base is touching your deployment zone, you are within it, and you will take a mortal on a 3-up and a battle shock test. So you can force a lot of battle shocks for stuff that's hanging back there.
Yeah, it becomes really annoying to hold your home field objective unless you have a sticky on it. And even there, if you get battle shocked early, you might not be able to do it.
It's quite annoying. So then there are upgrades. All right, there's several of them that are quite strong. We already mentioned what Autoclavic Denunciation and Imperialist Eradicator do. Then we have Malphonic Sussers, which is the stealth on the unit. Sussers.
I think it's like Sussurus or something.
Sussurus.
I know it's a real word, but I don't know what it means. I'll meet you halfway there.
All right, and then the last one is brand new. They used to have the control state, like the martial upgrade, that went to the veteran cohort. Instead, they have the radial suffusion upgrade, which extends rad bombardment from within your opponent's deployment zone to if you're within 6 of your opponent's deployment zone.
That is...
Battle round 2 onward, not battle round 1.
That is pretty huge.
It's a big increase.
Because the board spreads out, once, like usually, on the diagonal ones at least. And 6 inches away on the diagonal ones is going to be a lot more than just an extra 6 inches because it also widens out. In addition, if you get this on like Dawn of War, it is a 60% increase to that rule, just for being on the board. Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
That enhancement.
Hammer and Anvil, it's not quite as much, but it's still good in Hammer and Anvil.
Yeah, and it's still, the thing is, one model from your unit is within it. You're doing it.
Yes.
Which means, like... Imagine on the diagonal boards where you want to get like investigate signals and that type of stuff, and you're just like, I'm going to leave this unit here. It's within 6.
Take a battle shock.
Take that battle shock. All right. So those are the enhancements. Then we got the stratagems. Several of these interact with, if you use it on a battle line unit, you can then pick another Skitarii unit nearby. So I'm just going to kind of simplify them a little bit. So first one's 2 CP. It's for -1 to wound in combat, which is not bad. It used to be 1 CP. Now, 2 CP, much less tasty because you can't use it on vehicles anyway.
-1 to wound in combat on an army that's not like... It doesn't fold immediately in combat, like... But it's not... It doesn't fold like Sisters, but it's not ideal.
If you could use it on Dragoons, totally would be awesome. But probably not...
Oh, you just can't at all?
No vehicles.
That's a lot worse. I mean, it helps... in like the mid-range fights against like other troops, but then it's 2 CP, so it's probably not going to use that much.
Breachers
definitely. Is it just -1 to wound? It's not -1 to wound with strength higher than toughness or anything?
Just -1 to wound.
Alright, toughness 7 breachers can become very hard to kill in combat.
So you come in with strength 6 and you're like, I'm going to not do anything.
Whoopsie-daisy.
Then Extinction Order. This one is one of the many ways they can manipulate Battle Shock. So Tech Priest picks an objective within 24. It doesn't have to be visible. For each enemy unit on the objective, you roll a 4. On a 4-up, they take Mortal and take a Battle Shock test. That's used in your command phase.
It's 1 CP?
Just 1 CP.
That's pretty good.
It's okay.
I mean, you have to proc the 4-up and then the Battle Shock test.
Exactly. So.
All right.
But there are going to be ways to manipulate their battle shock a bit.
I was originally thinking that was Tyrannid-esque, but no.
It's not
It's
quite.
it's Tyrannid on a 4+, which is not ideal.
Then we have Aggressor Imperative. This one is quite good. It's 1 CP, and you pick a Skitarii unit from your army. If you pick a battle line unit, you can then pick another Skitarii unit within 6 of it.
But not Breachers.
Not Breachers, because they're not Skitarii. So you get flat 6 to your advance.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Well, where it is very good is using it on your battle line to get up onto an objective, and then in addition, using it on your Dragoons, which are Skitarii, to get them flat 6 advance, because they can advance and charge.
Yep.
Which is super nice. 1 CP for a pre-calibrated Purge solution. You pick an Admech unit. If it's battle line, you can then pick another Skitarii unit. You can pick a friendly Skitarii within 6, and if the targeted attacks is within your opponent's deployment zone, you reroll hits. Not quite as good.
Especially when you're...
Breachers is the main damage.
Yep, Breachers are your main damage. They already reroll hits, and it's only in your shooting phase, so it's not like Dragoons are going to get to use it. And it is 1 Admech unit. You can have... What else is in the codex that is like a heavy hammer hitter? Not really. Like, you can take a unit of 3 Iron Striders and get rerolls on that. You're not really going to do that. Maybe you give, like, your Infiltrators, your Vanguard reroll to hit if they need it in a skirmish fight, but, like, probably not.
Where I thought of using it was on, instead of taking the Twin Cognis Las Cannon variant, you take the Twin Cognis Auto Cannon. It's an extra attack, so then the unit 6 attacks, which when linked and sustained 6, you're probably getting quite a bit more value out of it, but it's still not, like, amazing value.
Is it good on the Jazz Hand fellows?
Yes, you can use it on them. They hit on 3s natively on like most of the army, so it's not like...
But they have sustained, right?
But they do have sustained too.
Sustained 2 is not bad there. So you get rerolls. How many shots apiece?
It is 3 shots, I believe. So
okay,
you
so
disembark them from a transport, shoot, reroll wounds against the target as well.
Yeah.
You can do a decent amount of damage.
I think that's decent. It lacks a good unit to use it on, but it is a good strat.
Yeah. And once again, your opponent has to be in their deployment zone, so it's not like you're just getting tons of value on a short-range unit.
I don't actually even think that you include very much to try and benefit from it.
Yep.
If you happen to be able to get real hits, you're like, let's go.
Then 1 CP in your shooting phase, you get lethal hits. Once again, Breachers like this, but then you're running a Manipulus who just has it.
Have lethal hits already, and it's not good enough to not take the Manipulus to put something else in the Breachers and then 1 CP get lethal hits, because lethal hits is not like that strong.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sustained hits, okay.
Yes.
Lethal hits, it's alright, I guess.
So then we've got Bulwark Imperative. This is 2 CP used in your opponent's shooting phase, and it is, you pick a Skitarii unit. If it's battle line, you can pick another Skitarii unit within 6. You get a 4-up info.
And then, so 2 CP is quite expensive. This is a battle tactic. Do you have any free strat stuff?
No free strat stuff. Their Marshal can double strats, but can only work on battle tactics. So you can use this twice.
Yeah, you're not doing that. That's 2 CP.
2 CP each.
Okay, so you can proc a 4-up invuln, but most of the time you're going to have to pop the start of phase Manipulus one. And start of phase is so much worse.
Yes.
Because if I can point at both Breacher squads, you have to pop it on both or neither.
This only works on Skitarii, so you can't use it on Breachers either.
Can't even use it on Breachers. Tight. I mean...
So the Stratagem Suite here is not fantastic. Aggressor Imperative is legitimately good.
Which one is that? That's the flat 6 advance? Yeah.
That one's fantastic.
I think there's like 2 or 3 in there that are quite situational, and then there's a couple that are a little too expensive for that.
Yeah.
Like the 2 CP -1 to wound exclusively in melee is like decent. It's just super situational.
It was 1 CP, and it was just, you could use it on anything, it's fine.
Yeah, orcs have 1 CP -1 to wound in shooting or combat.
Yeah, oh no, it was never shooting. It was always combat.
I know, I'm just saying...
Yeah. Things are...
I'm taunting you with the orc suite of stratagems.
Alright, so we're going to keep Rad Cohort, Rad Zone Core, but we're going to change this list significantly. So first of all, robots, get them out of here.
You don't want punch bots? What do punch bots do?
You want to get into the punch bots?
Punch bots are the sweetest, are just so cool. Are they good? We're about to find out. Probably not.
Here you go. So what the Cybernetica Gadasmith is now at the start of the battle, if he's leading the Castellan robots, you pick one of these. You start an Aegis protocols, and then you can at the start of your command phase, you can pick one of these.
So +1 toughness, take him to toughness 10, which is not bad. +2 attacks in melee, +2 attacks in shooting. Okay. All right. And they punch, I assume.
Yep.
They move
That's
6.
their profile right there.
They move 6.
Yep.
Which is not ideal. Can they be -1 to wound? No, they're vehicles.
They're vehicles.
All right, slick. The Cybernetica Datasmith has a 4 Feel No Pain, so he can't tank because he's a character.
Yep.
And he doesn't do a big enough buff that your opponent's going to want to snipe him out. Every time a ranged attack is allocated, he pulses back mortals.
Yep, they've kept that each edition.
And they're 2 to 4.
Yep. They're 100 points each.
They're 100 points each. Punch bots go to 6 attacks. I assume twin Castle and Fists, right?
Yeah, twin. So
you 6 attacks.
You get twin link.
So 12 attacks. They hit on 4s, rerolling to wound. It's like middling damage.
It's also only AP2 for some reason.
Unreliable. If it was hitting on like... If he gave them rerolls to hit, and they hit on like 3s, I'd be like, that hits really damn hard. I think if he gave them reroll to hit, I think that would be enough. The Incending Combustor is just a heavy flamer at strength. All right, we're done here.
100 points a model, my man.
They just don't do damage. That is a problem.
And
I love the punch bots. Their design is actually, I think, pretty cool. They forgot to give them damage. Like, it used to be punch bots got to you and you felt it.
Okay, if you'll notice in here, there's an entire extra character that we don't need. So one of the Dominuses is gone for sure.
All right, so we got a Manipulus, a Dominus. I assume those go in the Breachers.
Yep.
So this one's going.
What is he going in? Is he going in the basic troops? No, absolutely not. Get him out of here. Yeah, yoink.
Prune that tree.
Okay, so you know how I feel about Dominus versus Manipulus. I think the Manipulus is vastly superior, and when you have lethal hits plus sustained hits and full rerolls, I like that significantly better.
Where do you get the
this is the
sustained hits from?
Peerless Eradicator.
Got it. What's the points on this?
He's 55, and the Peerless Eradicator, I believe, is 20, but let's check. Peerless Eradicator is 20. Okay.
So 75.
Yep.
And the Autoclavic is also...
Is 15. I frankly...
So is the Manipulus... He's 55?
He's 55 base.
Okay, so there we go.
But don't worry, we're going to change that points because we're not running Autoclavic Denunciation. I don't think it's consistent enough anymore, and it's just with the Dev Wounds change as well.
It's also not like Breachers are struggling to kill things at close range. Like at 15 inches, you are blasting people. I don't think you need an extra... Like, his gun is fine as is. The problem with Autoclavic Denunciation on him is when it's not +3 attacks, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you're just doing 0 damage. Yep. So you essentially have to pass a 2/3 chance or a 50-50 chance to do damage at all.
Yep. And
as opposed to you're always doing the damage because you get the +3 attacks. I think that was a bit of a miss, but on the design.
We're cutting that for Radial Suffusion, which extends the range of our actual detachment roll.
Okay, and how much is that?
25 points. So he's 55.
So he is 80.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. The Engine Seer is 45. He went up 5 points.
Yes. So we're also doing this with the points that came out yesterday.
Yes. Okie doke. So...
where does this leave us? If you want to...
Yep, let me start doing that.
Pop it in that app.
Well, let me cut a couple more things, and then I will throw this into the app.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, solo Iron Striders need to become Dragoons. Dragoons are vastly better, yes. For now. Dragoons have native advance and charge. They love the Aggressor Imperative, because you can just move them 16 inches and declare a charge, no problem, which is very, very strong. It's one of the strongest things about this detachment.
Are we going to have more Sidonian Dragoons?
Yeah, 3 solo minimum. Absolutely. Like, every Admech list should have 3 of them minimum, in my opinion. Okay, then we're going to want the... Now I have to edit this roster to put the detachment in. We got Rad Zone Core. Cool. All right. Other things, we only ever need 1 Ranger unit. Sticky objectives is great, except it's very hard to get like a ton of them. You're usually not stickying the middle too often because your opponent, they're not contesting the center objectives that you're controlling, you're getting a ludicrous amount of primary points.
There is the note of like you can sticky your home, and you can also sticky your natural expansion objective, which is usually quite good.
Yeah, and that's what you just drive them into the transport. The after turn 1, after you stick your home, drive them up there, and then they'll stick you after that.
Yeah, I agree you probably don't need 2. Do they do significantly less damage than Vanguard?
They do significantly about the same.
Does Vanguard have the reduce OC thing?
Yes.
I assume you're about to replace it, not cut it entirely.
100%. We probably will get more troops. Okay, so let me go ahead and plug this in here and grab these little guys. So we've got double Manipulus, we've got an Engine Seer. The Engine Seer heals the vehicles and can give him a 5 of Phenopain. Yep. So we can keep him for now. He can also get Radial Suffusions.
Does it give it to the model, or does it give it to the unit?
It gives it to a vehicle model.
Okay, so if you have a unit of 3 Dragoons, it gives it to one of them, not all 3.
Exactly.
Okay, that's less good than the Hunter Cohort strat.
100% it is. But like on a Onager or a Transport, you all of a sudden make it so that your opponent really has to commit to get it.
And an Onager with a 5 of Feel No Pain sounds miserable to deal with.
Yeah, you just ignore it. All right, so we've got 1 Ranger unit and 3 Vanguard units. We'll probably come back and add more here in a second. Okay, Transports, we got 2 of them.
Yep, we got 2 Dune Riders. The Dune Riders are quite solid.
Yep, they definitely are. We got 5 Infiltrators. Okay.
Like, honestly, for the points you're paying, I actually think they're kind of a steal. Because you get dramatically more guns than, like, a Rhino or something like that.
Yep, and they made it twin-linked, and it had the fire. Now it has the fire support rule. I think it's a very good transport.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Oh, wow, yeah. No, this vehicle is just legitimately very good for 80.
Yep, and when you throw 5 of Phenopain on there, man.
Becomes very, even durabler.
All right.
For sure.
So, adding the Cataphrons in. All right, that's going to leave us at 1520. So we still have quite a few points to play with here, which is good because we needed several things. So, part of the reason that you run this detachment is you want to battle shock people into oblivion. And there's a couple units that interact with battle shock. Okay, first of all, the most important one is infiltrators. We have 5 here at the bottom.
What do they do?
They have 2 different rules that interact with battle shock. First is if your opponent, at the start of a fight phase, if enemy units are engaged in range of them, you take a battle shock test.
Isn't it like -2 or something?
Then they have a 6-inch aura that is -1 to battle shock and leadership tests, or if they're within 6 of battle line, which is going to be any of those Vanguard and Rangers, and they're often going to be, it's -2. So you can very easily, okay, your opponent, like, you can send these guys up, flat 6 advance them if you need to get them within 6 of your enemy, the enemy units that are within 6 of their deployment zone, and all of a sudden they're going to take all those battle shock tests, but now at -2.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty nasty.
There are different things you can do to get them into awkward positions for your opponent.
And I do like the OC manipulation of Vanguards and Infiltrators. Because the Vanguards get within 3, they reduce your OC. The Infiltrators get close to you, they reduce your OC because you took a battle shock and failed it at -2.
Yep.
So how many of these are we looking at?
I think in this detachment, 3 minimum. Like 3 minimum squads.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they are... I like them in most lists, but in this one, you really want to lean on to messing with their battle shock. You need to get these into your opponent near their units.
Especially if it's 6 inches of their deployment zone, it's so easy to just, like, randomly have these floating nearby.
Yeah, and you have this flat 6 advance. Boom, just 14 inches. Then a 6-inch aura off of that. Anything within 20 inches of some... either a transport that's hanging out in the middle or them just hanging out in general.
I know the answer is going to be no.
Stiltsman?
No. No. And he's, like, fine. He's just outshined by assassins. No, I mean, like, there's nothing else in the book.
No, he forces a battle shock.
Oh, okay, that's cute, I guess. In the shooting phase?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
if
that's
you hit something.
Not the timing I need it to happen in. Yeah, I mean, he's okay as, like, a lone op. I'm not going to get into the value of just a lone op that doesn't do anything. But you have access to assassins, so that's not really a thing. What I was going to say is, I know the answer is probably no. Is there a unit in here, in this book, that, like, benefits off of people who are battle shocked?
That gets stronger if something's
Or
bad?
has some effect when an opponent fails a battle shock test?
No.
Solid.
The closest thing to, like, interacting with battle shock, like I said, is these infiltrators and Stiltsman, which they can force battle shock tests. But nothing gets stronger based on your opponent being battle shocked. They get some sweet buff. So it's not Tyranid-esque in that sense, unfortunately.
Got it. Okay, so what are you thinking of now?
So we need to ramp up the pressure. Like this build, I think if you want to play this detachment, you have to put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and you're trying to get 50 on primary, and your opponent gets a lot less than that.
You can't let them just leave 6 inches of their deployment zone and score all their points from there.
Yep.
You want them, if they're fighting back on objectives, to still be taking those battle shock tests turn after turn, and the way to do that is by not just letting them move 2/3 of the way up the board and just sit.
So we need to move block them, and consistently. And the best thing to do that is called Sidonian Dragoons, because they can flat advance 6 in this detachment, and then advance charge.
Well, I would think of Sidonian Dragoons as a pressure unit for a different reason, which is that they physically can pressure you backwards.
Yep.
Like, just through offense.
So I think that we ramped the number up.
How many points we got left?
Okay, we're at 1660.
I don't want to be a killjoy here. I don't want to be.
You don't want to be?
But Davlos had it pointed out to them in the chat that they could include more Dragoons, and this was their response.
It's the... I don't think they're going to be able to see it, but it's...
It's a wallet.
It's from Pulp Fiction, where he's
it's
like...
the looking around, but instead it's his wallet. Which is fair. Those things are a point to dollar. So every time, if we go to 3x3, which I think is optimal, 3x3 Sidonian Dragoons, that is in fact asking him to spend another $360.
Okay, so let's just stop right here and say you max out the Dragoons.
Yes.
And then we go from there.
I think the list is largely complete at that point.
Pretty much. Let's go ahead and say that we can only run 3 solos, and we can't add any more.
Yeah, he had 2 in the list. Go out to your local store, find one.
Yep.
How many points does that have left if we go to 3x3? Because I think that's all the points we have.
So we're at 1660. So Cerberus Raiders, I really don't think they're needed. I think Infiltrators fill that role and do it in a more synergistic way in this army. Okay. So they're not needed.
They're not needed, which does open up the points to get to 3x3 Dragons.
Yeah, so all good on that. Let's go ahead. So Dunecrawler is here. He gives a 4-up invuln in a 6-inch aura for battle line models wholly within 6.
It's also a reasonably tough unit to hand a 5-up Feel No Pain to and just tell, hey, why don't you go tap that center objective and see what happens.
Yep, I think he's fine. I think he's totally fine.
Because he's toughness 10, 2-up save, 4-up invuln with access to cover, 11 wounds with a 5-up Feel No Pain. That's decently tough.
And the Engine Seer can heal him.
And the Engine Seer can heal him. I like having one thing that can tap the center and your opponent's like, well, if I expose something real, the Breachers are going to get to eat it. Or the Dragoons are going to get to eat it.
So
then it won't have anything anymore.
Yeah. One of the combos I've really liked in my Admech list is Curia Draxus. I think she should come in here and support some Vanguard. Because
Draxus is quite solid.
Yep.
If your army has good battle line and it's Imperium, then Draxus is very good. I will probably recommend it in the Custodes list coming up, because I just gosh darn love Curia Draxus in Custodes more than most.
She just shoots harder than the whole squad, and she has a bunch of ablative wounds, and she ignores cover from them, in addition to interacting with the army rule. So, for instance, if she's shooting at something in your opponent's deployment zone, you're in Conquer, you get +1 AP on that. +1 AP, ignores cover, she can start popping off.
Ignores cover and +1 AP on her guns is quite stupid.
And
Dirge Singer, whatever, that's an anti-infantry dev wounds gun. But her indirect is pretty silly if you give it +1 AP and ignores cover. It's actually pretty ridiculous. In addition,
if the transport hits the target, you can get reroll wounds on it. So the transport can pop around, shoot whatever's back there, and then she can get the reroll wounds.
That's about the point where she is doing as much damage as she would in a Custodian Guard squad. A Custodian Guard squad, she gets to double shoot and reroll wounds. Here, she gets +1 AP, ignores cover, and reroll wounds. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty darn good.
Just pretty darn good.
So there's a lot of cool things you can potentially do with her. So I really like her. I think she should go into most Admech lists. All right, so we need more layers of move blocking. If we're not move blocking with the Dragoons, so we've got Infiltrators that are going to do that role. We have, and in terms of infiltrating, we can't get Clandestine Infiltrator, which is what the Hunter cohort can bring. So I like just having more 10-man units on the board here, personally. Especially because you can flat 6 advance them out of the transport.
I have a question here. FX in the chat has raised a good point. What does a Calexis do? Does it do anything with Battle Shock?
It really does. It is once per game on a 6-inch aura, because I've looked at her, a 6-inch aura of -1 to leadership and battle shocks. If it's a Psyker, it's -2, I believe. And let's see if I'm totally right. All enemy units within 6 of the model, -1 to leadership, or by 2 if it's a Psyker. And then once per battle at the start of any command phase, the model can use this ability. If an enemy unit, each enemy unit within 6 takes a battle shock test. And
what
then
rules does it have? Does it infiltrate?
I believe it does.
Deep strike,
No.
lone operative. Stealth, though, is quite nice there.
Stealth,
because the Custodes doesn't have stealth, but he does.
but not infiltrate.
Not infiltrate.
But when you force that battle shock and the Sicarans are within 6 of a battle line unit, it's -2 to it. So it's another way to swing primary. Let's go ahead and throw her in.
I actually like the Custodes here for a very important reason. One, you just put them on an objective, and if your opponent moves something onto that objective, you're just like, beep, beep, bink, take a battle shock. And if they fail it, you get 5 points. Mm-hmm. Especially since if they fail it and you have like infiltrators nearby, they're at -3 to the test. Mm-hmm. And they can't auto pass it because it's in your command phase, not their command phase. I quite like that.
Everything that interacts with battle shock is, and then I don't believe there is another way in here.
85, I think, for the Custodes.
Yes, 85. So she's not cheap.
No, but a good lone op as opposed to Stiltman. A good lone op is actually a very good thing to have in an army.
Stiltman.
Because if 2 shooting armies are staring at each other, the person who has lone ops will win that fight. Because you just put a lone op out and your opponent has to get really close to deal with it if they even can. Mm-hmm. And then you get to start the action and start shooting. So a lone op in a shooting army is real scary for that reason. If a shooting army just sits back, lets you develop a lone op on an objective, they are in trouble.
Definitely. Okie doke. So we have 180 points left to play with here, which once again could just be 3 Dragoons, but
certainly could be.
We don't have that.
I think we made it clear this list probably just wants to have 9 Dragoons in it.
So let's definitely add another squad of Vanguard here to go up to 4 squads of Vanguard, because we want one battle line unit has to just sit next to our breachers, which will probably be when Drax's unit gets out, they'll hang back there and use the 2-up to, she'll like shoot something away, be relatively safe, and then your next command phase rolls the 2-up to make them untargetable. So she can hang back with the breachers after that, and the other units get kind of relayed through the transports.
I don't hate her in Rangers either. She lets them walk up the field safer and get on objectives safer.
Yeah, but 18 inches is still like...
18 is not even remotely the same as 12.
Yeah.
It's just not. I've tried the Thousand Suns Sorcerer spam, and the 18 inches is very shootable, and the 12 inches is a lot, would have been a lot better.
All right, so with 100 points is kind of awkward for Admech, because especially for our friend Davlos here, because what you can get is either 2 Radium Giselle Dragoons or 2 Iron Striders, which he is saying he can't get more of.
Well, to be fair, he had 2 Iron Striders in the list. We turned them to Dragoons, but my guess is there's still Iron Striders in his collection.
They might be.
So 2 solo Iron Striders is probably a good way to round this list out.
If he can get 3 more Dragoons. 100%.
If he can get 3 more Dragoons.
100%.
Unfortunately, they are just the most, how do I put this, predatorily priced unit in the game right now.
So other options are we could cut something and get a bunch of points. For instance, we could potentially cut the Dune Crawler and just get more troops and more transports. That's an option. We could just go for like another lone op or another ranger squad to get 10 more troops in here.
Let's drop in the 2 Iron Striders.
Okay.
And call that.
Yep. Just they can hang out on the flanks. They're still relatively durable. And you get 2 random shots, which when you roll the 6 to hit, it feels awesome.
I know. You roll that 6 75% of the time against me, I swear to God. It's a thing. That list looks actually like it's pretty good. It's composed of units I actually want to take in the army, which is... I'm so tired of taking units that are like bad but synergistic to try and cover a hole, but at the end of the day they're still bad. and I run into this a lot with Space Marines. There's like 60 units in Space Marines that like do something that you might want, but it's just not good at that job. Mm-hmm. And if you let yourself get tricked into taking them, you're going to end up with a bad list that covers all your holes badly. Yep. This is composed entirely of units that I want to see on the board, which is good. I think it's well-rounded. I think it has good objective play, and I think it has a good shooting punch. Mm-hmm. And the 2 squads of breachers.
A quite solid amount of battle shock manipulation.
Yeah.
That can be very, when you get -2, potentially -3 in that instance, that's a lot.
You can proc battle shocks off the Colexis, which is really good. You walk it and the infiltrators up, and you're just like, battle shock at -3. Mm-hmm. That is really solid if you want to take objectives away from your opponent on their turn. If you want to defend objectives, the Colexis can snap their fingers and battle shock your opponent and try and get them off that point. And stealth to stay alive through an attack, which is quite nice.
Well, Admech is fundamentally about making sure the primary difference is in your favor, and then trying to keep secondaries as even as possible, in my opinion. So this is what this list is trying to do with all the battle shock nonsense, because your opponent's going to be very, very sad when all their different stuff are OC0.
I mean, if you happen to hit it rich on the stock market or something, I think 9 Dragoons is where you want to be with the Taser Goads.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
Taser Lances.
Yeah, I think if we're all being honest with each other, you, me, and everyone in chat, I think the best list of some kind is like, has north of 18 walkers.
It might.
It might.
That's a lot of bring it downs. The 9 Dragoons is like amazing. I've run them multiple times now. They're super good when you run 9 in Hunter cohort.
It's very solid.
All right.
I do like the flat advance.
So hopefully, Davlos, you like this one and are able to find a way to get a couple more Dragoons in there. But, enjoy this list. Let us know how it works.
All right, next up, we're in my wheelhouse now, Siegs. We got EwGrossChris with the Adeptus Custodes. All right, now this list is titled, I believe, something like I Heart Terminators. Let me see. What? Yes, I Heart Alaris. Okay, and boy does it show. Okay, we've got Trajan Valoris. We've got a shield captain in Alaris armor with Inspirational Exemplar to be a once per game. He makes his unit lead 5, so does Trajan, and then Inspirational Exemplar is once a game, at the start of any phase, you unbattle shock a unit within 12. I quite like it. It's cheap. If you have 10 points left, you're filling with Inspirational Exemplar. Then you've got 5 Wardens, 2 units of 6 Alaris, 1 unit of 5 Alaris, and 3 units of Witch Seekers, and an Everstir. So this is a Custodes list that is entirely focused around infantry. And when you do that, the standard right now, as far as I can tell, is you get 5 units. If you get 6, good on you, man, but you really get 5. And support. This list has 4. And 4 is dramatically worse than 5, even if the units themselves are better, and Alaris are the premier unit. You know, like, if you're getting hit by Alaris, it is harder hitting than Wardens or Guard. Not by a lot than Guard, but it shoots much harder. It's harder hitting than Guard, it's harder hitting than Wardens, it's harder hitting than Venatari, it's harder hitting than all of those, but it is 70 points a model. And that's the point where if you take 17, like Chris has here, you are going to run into some problems. And by that I mean you are in 4 places on the board. And your opponent will knock you off of at least 1 or 2 of those. So now you're playing the game, you're playing the end game with like 2 units. That sucks, right? Because what the ideal game plan for Custodes is you get in a fight, you lose a couple units, you play the game with what you have left. Your opponent also loses stuff, but if you have 5 units and you lose 2 of them, you are in 3 spots on the board. That's usually fine. Fine. Whereas if you have a 4 unit list and you lose 2 of them, now you are in trouble. you are officially in trouble. And that means I'm going to keep more Alaris in this list than I would ordinarily do, because the list title is literally I Heart Alaris. And who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Who doesn't? I have 3 already built at my place, and I have 3 more in box, just waiting for the codex to see. I'm paranoid. I'm so paranoid that they're going to like fix axes after I assemble all my spears. Just after I built all my Wardens with axes for last edition, and they come out this one, axes are terrible. Anyway.
Axes look cooler, though.
They look so much cooler, and they are so much worse. Anyway. We need to get to 5 units. Minimum. And we'll have a little extra punch, but we need to get to 5. So, how are we going to do that? Well, first off, I think my initial gut reaction is it's going to be by cutting, not by cutting the 5-man, but by cutting 1 6-man and 1 6-man to a 5-man. 420 is just so many points, dude. It's so many points. In addition, this shield captain in Alaris armor is about to become just a regular shield captain.
How many points does that save?
It saves none, but it lets us get wardens, effectively. So these 5-man Alaris custodians are by themselves. They just are by themselves. I like wardens right now. I think they're my favorite unit. Like, I think they're the strongest unit in Custodes, because there's just a turn where they slap themselves on the chest, right? They pound their chest and say, I will not die. Period. A 4-up feel no pain, especially if you have a shield captain there to give them -1 damage, just means they hold the line for that turn. High OC on the unit means you hold that objective for that turn, and because your opponent committed to you, you get to pick stuff up in response, carry the momentum forward, which is what you need to do. You can't let your opponent commit, get in, kill a unit, and then you try and scramble and recover from there. When they commit on a unit, you have to be like, no, stop, and then not die.
Yeah.
And Custodian Wardens at -1 to wound, if the strength is higher than the toughness, and potentially -1 damage, especially if you have a shield captain in there, and a 4-up feel no pain will just hit stop and tell your opponent, this is a multi-phase process, minimum. And they're not like easy to kill when you're out of that. They're still the hardest ones to kill because you've access to -1 damage and -1 to wound. So I like wardens. They make up for the fact we have fewer models by saying when your opponent commits, nope, sorry. Next turn you can kill them. After they've already killed some of your stuff, pushed your front lines back, then you can kill them. And so I like wardens. And what that means is we're going to get another squad of wardens in here. Minimum. They're also significantly cheaper than Alaris, which I like. There were no notes alongside this.
Okay.
As far as I could tell. Alright. So we're going to delete the Alaris shield captain. We're going to get another shield captain. My second...
What's the inspirational exemplar do?
Inspirational exemplar is leadership 5.
Okay.
And unbattle shock a unit once a game.
Okay.
And it's anywhere within 12.
It really sucks when your giant brick of these guys need to hold this objective get battle shocked.
Yeah, they do go to OC1 because of the banner, which is super dope. But the way your opponent's usually going to try to kill these, if they can't kill them, right? They can't kill them with -1 damage, or they can't kill them because you're going to fight first, is battle shock you. And if you're battle shocked, then at the start of the fight phase, you're just like, nope, stop. I'm not battle shocked anymore. Or at the start of the charge phase, you're just like, nope. I'm not battle shocked anymore. All right, fight first. And then that helps. Or -1 damage. And you just sit there, right? Like, if 6 Exalted 8-bound charge you and you're like, -1 damage, 4-up, feel no pain, fight first, your opponent's going to have a bit of a tricky sitch going on right there.
All right, so now we have the 4 bricks.
So now we have 4, and let's see how many points we have left off of that. So we're cutting a 6 brick. And we're cutting a 6 brick to turn into a 5. And we've got wardens. And this gives us 225 points remaining.
It's 225. So you'd need 50 to get the 3rd warden unit?
We would need 50 to get the 3rd warden. And we would need more points if we wanted a character in there. Okay. Which we don't necessarily need. But I do like characters to go in all the wardens to give them -1 to wound.
Gotcha.
So, Trajan is becoming a blade champion.
Is that -1 to wound if the strength is greater, or is it the other version?
It is if the strength is greater. Trajan is becoming a blade champion. It saves us 40 points, and it makes the unit dramatically quicker.
He's the advance in charge, fallback charge.
He is the advance in charge. He is the fallback in charge. If you give him the Ceaseless Hunter, which I quite like, and I'm about to do. If you give him Ceaseless Hunter, it lets them move once when your opponent ends a move within 9, which can be backbreaking.
Is that a normal move?
Is a normal move of 6 inches when your opponent ends a move within 9, which, by the way, can be Phantasm because it's not phase locked. So if you walk up to your opponent, they Phantasm backwards, but they end that phantasm within 9, you just walk 6 inches forward and charge them. So, inspirational exemplar is Ceaseless Hunter. I think Ceaseless Hunter is insane because wardens sometimes don't kill their target. It happens. We've all been there.
What's their profile?
Ceaseless Hunter lets them fall back and charge the whole game long. Blade Champion lets them reroll charges, reroll advances, and once a game, advance and charge.
What's the Warden profile?
The Warden profile is 5 attacks apiece at 7/2/2, and you get the advantage of, sustained, lethal, or -1 to be hit.
Okay. So, like, against a tougher thing, they probably
You can get
swing
+1
under.
to wound against monsters and vehicles. So, some units, they don't kill. And that happens a decent enough amount of the time. Now, the Shield Captain can give them all 3 of the lethal sustained -1 to hit. That's once a game. Or every turn just gives them a second one. So lethal sustained with +1. All right, they'll probably punch their way out of a scenario, especially since they have a Shield Captain in there who, if we have points left, is going to get Unstoppable or Veiled Blade.
So the Captain's the difference between, like, a consistent play going off or I'm, like, stuck here.
Yep. And the Blade Champ with Ceaseless Hunter, if they don't get out of their combat, the Blade Champ can just fall back. Okay. And so you can't tie them up, which is really good. So this leaves us with 215 points. There is no way we get Wardens in here in a way that I like.
Because you want the character.
I want the character. It's just not happening. But what I can do, potentially, is include Guard plus Draxus. Maybe. That is my favorite unit in the book. If we have 215 points left... Oh, no, sorry. That's without cutting Trajan down. So we're going to have a little bit more points than that, which is good, because 215 isn't quite enough. So Blade Champ with Ceaseless. This leaves us with 235. If we cut Witch Seekers and we cut the other 2 Witch Seeker squads down to Sisters of Silence, I wonder where that gets us. I have not pre-calculated this. Prosecutor. That leaves us with room enough to get Custodian Guard in there. A 5-man, and we need to cut some points in order to get Draxus. If we want a 5-man. We could go with a 4-man.
How many points do we need?
So we need 20. So that could be cutting Ceaseless, which I'm not a big fan of. It could be the Shield Captain becomes a 2nd Blade Champion, which might work. We have options here. So if we go Sisters... Or it's not Sisters, it's Prosecutors. And they're 40. And we do that again. I'm just trying to get 5 bricks that I like in this list. Basically, this is my Custodes list, but with a 2nd Alaris unit instead of a Venatari unit, but it has an Eversur in addition. Okay. So it ends up being slightly more points, which is just a bit unfortunate.
How many points are the troops, or the Guardians?
Custodian Guard are 250 for 5.
Okay, so 50 points smaller.
And you probably want... I go back and forth between 4 Guardian Spears and a Vexilla. I think you want the Vexilla and Shield combo. The Wardens definitely get it because they just get it alongside their Guardian Spear and it doesn't cost them anything, which is dope. So here, if we include Curia Draxus in this list is a little over. What we could do is we could swap out Custodian Guard for Wardens and just not put a character in.
Do we not have the inspirational upgrade on the Shield Captain?
We do not have inspirational in this. Alright. This is where I want the list. But this list is 20 points over. So I'm now open to suggestions. Somebody mentioned we could put Valyrian in, who's only 115. We could put him in instead of the Shield Captain, which would give us enough points.
I think doing the 2nd Blade Champ sounds fine, because that access to the advance and charge is so good.
It is huge. Valyrian's thing is, he himself is pretty decent. He's AP3, he has a lot of attacks. He's not bad. And he gives a unit Armor of Contempt, only in the fight phase. If it was Armor of Contempt all the time...
Yeah, then automatic.
Then he's
like, Armor
in
of Contempt,
no question
why
asked.
is he not on your list? And then
He would have been in my list if it... The first time I read the index, I thought it was Armor of Contempt all the time. And I was scheming. But it was not. Second read-through got me. Yeah, so Valyrian... The thing is, I don't think you need help against pure combat armies. I think that's
Yeah, they're
not like an auto win, but it's as good as you're going to get. I don't think you need Valyrian there. What I do agree, I think the second Blade Champ.
Yeah, I don't want to cut the upgrade, and then I don't want to mess with the cheap stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it has as little cheap stuff as we can reasonably fit.
Yeah.
So, we could cut one of the prosecutors.
Or the Eversur down to something
Or
weaker.
we could cut the Eversur down to... Honestly, I'm going to cut the Eversur down to prosecutors. I like having one unit that's always -1 damage.
Okay.
Ship Captain. I'll change the points in a second. Whoop. I like having a unit that's always -1 damage. That feels nice, because you can really be a jerk with it. Mm-hmm. And then we get Shield Captain at 140. We lose poor Eversur Assassin.
Cut from the team.
Cut from the team so that we can get a full 5 in here. What I want to do realistically is I want another Warden Squad instead of the Alaris, but that's just not how that works. We could, but then we wouldn't have the points to give it a character.
Do we get another enhancement with that change?
We do. We have 15 points left, and the only thing we can buy is Inspirational Exemplar.
Done.
I'd love to have another 10 in this list, but that's just not happening. 10 would be for Veiled Blade. But Inspirational is quite a good enhancement because it lets you unbattle shock anything within 10.
Mm-hmm. Inspiration.
I think this list is pretty decent.
And his points increased.
Yeah, his points increased to 150.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, I quite like this.
You got them Terminators.
We should
have got the Forge World Terminators in here.
They're so bad, dude. They so bad.
They look amazing.
What if they were the same points cost? They could also pick up and come down once a game, but instead of re-rolling wounds against characters, monsters, and vehicles, you just didn't do that. Also, your gun is... No, I'm not going to say it's better. It's different. What do you think? What do you think about that? Also, your melee, I think, is worse. I forget. It's been a second since I looked at them.
But they look cooler.
They do.
They are probably my favorite Custodes models.
They are on 50s. They look sweet. They take up a lot of space. They're awesome. They don't reroll hits wound. They don't reroll to wound against everything and their mother, which is less good than if you could.
Well, hopefully Chris enjoys this one, even though we did cut some Terminators.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think if you're running Custodes, infantry-based list, which is probably the best. If I had to take Custodes to an event, that's probably what I would do. I think you need to aim for 5 bricks of guys minimum. Just 5 bricks of guys, because you just don't cover enough of the board otherwise. If you can get a 6 champion, you're a hero. Go off, you king or queen. But I think you need minimum 5 just so you can be in 5 places on the board. All right, next up is another Admech list. Time to kick it back to you.
Cool. So we are going to be doing the Skitarii Hunter cohort, my personal favorite detachment, and I think personally the strongest one. And this is for MikeIsBadAtGame. Mike,
Yes.
why are you so bad at game?
Who I noticed signed up for the War Room Gold at some point before the stream began. So sometime in the last day or so, I want to say. So glad to have you in, bud. So you hopped in, you submitted your list, and look at you.
You got picked?
You got picked.
So
it happens.
Let's first do let me read the list first, then I'll read the detachment and explain what it does, and then we'll kind of make some choices. All right, so we've got 2 Skitarii Marshals here. The Marshals can access any of the enhancements in this detachment, which is based around Skitarii. So Clandestine Infiltrator lets his unit gain Infiltrator. So your battle line unit will now, your 10 dudes plus him, infiltrate, and they get Scout 6. So Infil Scout, fantastic 20-point upgrade. Then the second Marshal gives Veiled Hunter. That's a redeploy for 3 Skitarii infantry units, and it happens after the first turn is decided.
Interesting.
Very good there as well. There's another enhancement that I really like, which we will get to. Then we have the Tech Priest Engine Seer. We already know what he does. He heals and can give a vehicle model a 5-out female pain. Probably trying to buff these onagers. Then we have a Techno-Archaeologist. He is +1 OC for the unit that he's in, and additionally is a 12-inch aura of you can't come in from reserve. So very good against 3.1 away stuff like Inceptors and GSC, Grey Knights, Demons, the Hypercrypt Necrons, etc. Then we have 6 units of Vanguard. these are the strongest troop choice here. Very good. That -1 OC is fantastic and can really help swing objectives. Then 10 Rangers for the sticky objectives. 3 units of Infiltrators, all with the Taser Goads and the Blasters. We already know why they're good. 3 units of Sterilizers. Sterilizers are good because they auto-hit with their Flamers. And in addition, they got a datasheet upgrade, so now they reroll 1s to wound against a target on an objective. If they're within 6 of battle line, they get full rerolls to wound. Alright, so they can also go back into reserve in this detachment, which we'll get to. 3x3 Dragoons with the Taser Lance. We have it. Just put it in the lists. Put the Dragoons in the list. They are that good, especially in this detachment where 1 CP they access 5 of Pain. They're very tanky. Very, very tanky. Then 2 Honor Dragoon Crawlers. They have the 6-inch aura of battle line models wholly within 6. Get a 4-pin against ranged attacks. Okay. So, let's explain what the detachment does before we edit this. First of all, the rule is Stealth Optimization. All your Skitarii infantry mounted, as well as Iron Strider Ballistari, gain stealth. Dragoons already have stealth, and your Sikaran units already have stealth. If you're a Sikaran unit, if the enemy is more than 12 inches away with ranged attacks, you get the benefit of cover. That rule is entirely pointless and useless. That should probably be some sort of melee buff, but it doesn't really do anything. The real part is your infantry get stealth, which means they're quite a bit tankier with -1 to hit. Then the enhancements, Cantic Thrallnet. This one goes on a Marshal, and at the start of the battle round, you pick a friendly Skitarii unit within 12, and they get Protector and Conquer Imperative. This is fine. Neither of those rules is like amazing, and you're probably sitting in Conquer for most of the game. You don't really need Protector, because you're not sitting in your deployment zone with this army. So, meh. I think it's pretty poor. Clandestine Infiltrator. Ready to discuss what it is. Straight up automatic in this detachment. Veiled Hunter, redeploy, also fantastic. And then Battlesphere Uplink is the one that you don't have here. One of the 2 that you don't have. And I think it is automatic, so it's definitely going to go in our list. In your shooting phase, after the barrier is shot, it can make if it's not engaged range, make a normal move of up to 6. And if it does, it can't declare a charge. Which means you pop out of the transport in your movement phase, you shoot something, and then it's a different phase. You re-embark into the transport. It is super good. Really, really good, because when you disembark from a transport, the transport shoots the target, you get full rerolls to wound. So now you pop out with the Marshal, unit rerolls hits, reroll wounds, gets back in the transport, turn after turn. Very strong. Alright, stratagems. 1 CP 5 of Pain on a Sikaran, Taraxi, or crucially, a Sidonian unit. Sidonian Dragoons. And that can be used in shooting or the fight phase. Then the Benaric Offensive is 2 CP. It is used at the start of the shooting or the fight phase. You pick 2 Skitarii units, and they get +1 AP, but can only target that enemy unit. 2 CP is a little pricey, but when you really need something, this is one of the ways Draxus can now get +1 AP, and potentially if the opponent's in their deployment zone, you get AP2 on her, which is quite strong. Then Expedited Purge Protocol is Advance and Charge, amazing stratagem. Dragoons have it natively, so you don't have to use it on them. Instead, you're using it on the troops or your infiltrators, or whatever it is. 1 CP, Isolate and Destroy. It can be used on basically most of the units you're going to run, except for the random vehicles and your basic troops. So Sikarans, Taraxi, Sidonian, Iron Strider, Skitarii Mounted can use this. It's only in the shooting phase. If it was a melee, it would actually help some of the Sikarans punch up in combat, but only shooting. If an enemy unit doesn't have any friendly enemy units within 6 of it, you get +1 to wound against it for that unit. So this one I don't typically use. I think its best use case is on the 10-man Taraxi unit with the Flamers that gets +1 to wound against the target and reroll wounds if it's on the objective and you're within 6 of battle line. So relatively niche because all the units here really don't shoot hard enough or have twin linked, so you don't need it. But it's quite strong in my opinion on the Taraxi Flamer unit, the Sterilizers. You could also run it on 6 Sulfur Hounds and do quite a bit. So there's some instances where it's pretty good. Then we have Shroud Protocols, 1 CP. Skitarii Infantry unit becomes a lone op. So if your opponent's not within 12, can't make ranged attacks.
That is a very good rule.
Really, really good, because you can have Draxus' unit with the 18-inch version, and then you can use the Strat on a different one. So, you can really mess with what your opponent wants to do. And then finally, 1 CP, up to 2 Sikaran units, or 1 Skitarii Infantry or Mounted unit can go back into reserve. very good strat as well. So like this is there's options here. Yeah. Unlike the other detachments, like there's a reason to use all of these.
Yeah. No, the enhancements look great, and the stratagems look great in that list. Let me read out the notes that Mike had here.
100%.
So the name of the list is "You Stay Put," and says, as the name suggests, the plan with this is to lock the opponent into their deployment zone first with infiltrators, then Traxian dragoons, and finally with whatever battle line is still alive, and just hold them there.
Perfect. Is Mike mentioned? Mike's in chat, right?
Mike is in chat.
Okay, can you ask Mike specifically how many dragoon bodies does he have access to?
Mike, how many dragoon bodies do you have access to?
I need to know because that's going to dictate whether we go full chicken coop.
I assume Mike has at least 9.
He definitely has.
There are 9 in the list. We're not going below that.
But how many more do you have? Can we activate the chicken coop?
Because the chicken coop is the strongest way to tell your opponent to sit. To stay.
And it's a very, very fun way.
I mean, if he comes back and tells us he has 27, we can...
We will play around with it, but I need to know the number. Okay. Let me go ahead and delete a bunch of this stuff and get in here.
All right, so what don't you like in the list? We'll go through that first.
The first thing that I don't like is double Onager Dunecrawler. At most, I would want 1. But frankly, how I use this army, mostly I'm going to be behind terrain, and then I'm going to pop out. And it's... The thing is, the 4-up invuln is good, but it's wholly within 6. And when you string the unit out, only a couple models are getting it. And the difference between the 4-up and 5-up invuln is nice, for sure. But then you have access to lone op and other things to help keep the unit alive. So personally, I definitely don't think you need 2. And maybe you cut the 1 and just get a lot more stuff.
He has 8.
He only has 8.
Only has 8. I believe he's being aspirational here, assuming, you know, when his paycheck comes in this month, he can afford his 9th Sidonian Dragoon. We're not going to 8. I'm sorry. That's not happening. But it looks like we can't go full chicken coop.
Okay.
Either that or
we'll do it
he's
in
one of those guys who, like, wins the lottery but doesn't want to let anyone know. And if he shows up at an event with like 27 Iron Striders, he'd be giving away the game a little, you know? Yeah. People know he's in that money. He's got that dough.
He's got the dough.
He's got the dough.
Okay, so we got 3 units of Sicarans here. We got the... All right, now I got to add the 3 Dragoons back in. I mean, it's just Value Town, let me tell you.
Yeah, you take 9. They're the best data sheet in the book. They're 60 points a model for a ridiculous stat line. Just take them.
So there's a couple things missing here that I think are essential for this army. First of all is transports. The Dune Rider, there's 0 here, which just can't happen.
We do want some Dune Riders.
Second of all is you have a lot of MSU, but as you can see, the strats really benefit a larger unit. So whether that's the +1 to wound strat, the +1 AP strat, the lone op strat, the go back into reserve, MSU is good, and we already have a pretty MSU list. I don't think the 5x5x5 sterilizer is the way to go. I think we want a single 10-man unit. Because
just to benefit from that +1.
The +1 to wound, or the +1 AP, and or the go back into reserve, or the lone op. Because what you can do with this unit is you can put it out onto an objective your opponent can only contest. They're not really getting there otherwise. They need to make a charge move onto it, or they can make it like a flat advance to get there. But they're not really doing much shooting damage. So you can overwatch them.
Mike is willing to go to 18.
Mike is willing to go to 18? Okay, well, let's keep that.
He's willing to drop another $600 on this Enterprise.
All right, let's keep that in our brains, because we're going to come back to that. So, 10-man sterilizers here. I don't think the MSU really helps that much. The 10-man, though, can step out. It can overwatch something that wants to come contest the objective, and then you can lone op it so your opponent's shooting, if it's not within 12, isn't doing anything. I think that's a very good unit, and then you can always bring it back into reserve. So that's...
Yep. Again, we're trying to get to that position of only taking units that you think are good.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start taking bad units to try and like cover your weaknesses, I personally think you make your list worse. That's me.
All right. I think as cool as the Engine Seer is, he's not needed in this list because the 5 of Phenopane strat is so darn good. And that's what we're mostly going to use.
How are we looking on Dune Crawlers?
Cut them both. I'm sorry. I think the transports are just better. 4-up Invuln is sweet. If it was just an aura of 6 inches and you could string the units out all over the place, 100%.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
But because you can, and because it's also only ranged attacks, I have felt they are okay, But honestly, I'm stringing these units all over the place, and I'm only usually getting a couple models with the 4-bit Invuln. So it's a durable platform, and it does like the engines here, but I think that combo is taking away too much from the rest of the list, personally. Okay, Kyria Draxus, get her in here, and like get at least 2 transports. Because that is absolutely needed. And I have to edit the list so I can get the enhancements.
Should go in with the characters. And then let's grab... I'm just walking over to Davlos and grabbing his stuff.
Grab his stuff. All right. Okay. We're also going to want a 3rd Marshal with Battlesphere uplink.
All right, so 3 Marshals.
Triple Marshal.
Techno-Archaeologist?
Move him to the side, because he's actually good, quite good.
What does he do?
He's the 12-inch bubble of you can't come in from reserve, and he's +1 OC for the unit. So what you can do very effectively with him is when you string out the unit, and you put like 3... Instead of having to put 5 models on the objective or whatever it is, you can put 3 models on the objective for 9 OC, and you're like, okay, your opponent can put 5 OC on the objective, no problem. But they're going to have to put like 2 to 3 units on there to get it. Maybe you put four of these Vanguard, and you string the rest of the unit back. They activate the first time, they kill a handful of them, and then you loan up the unit. Go back again with OC3 models.
What is the points cost on Battlesphere uplink?
It is 30 points, so he's 65. Okay, and that's the shoot and scoot. Once again, we're going to need transports for this. So those 4 characters plus Draxus is basically the most that I like. The Techno-Archaeologist is not mandatory. We can leave him towards the bottom, but he's in the list currently. All right, we got the 10 troops, the 10 Rangers, and the 6 units of Vanguard. Fantastic. 2 Dune Riders. Excellent. We got the 10 Sterilizers. We have 3 units of Infiltrators, 3 units of Dragoons, and Draxus.
How many points do we have left?
We have 95.
That's not...
We want more.
Oh, we want more. Come on.
We have Clandestine Infiltrator. I frankly, having played this archetype multiple times, you really only need one infiltrator unit. That covers everything that you need. Personally, you can run 2, but let's open up the space because I want Mike to spend a lot more money.
Okay, so if Mike doesn't need to remove a kidney, where do we want this list to end up? And then we'll go wild.
Okay, so if we don't want him to spend a kidney, what I would do with the extra 95 points is I keep the Techno-Archaeologist, I add another transport in, or I add a Calidus Assassin in, and I say, this is good.
Yeah,
something like that.
That seems where you want to be. All right.
I want Mike to spend a kidney.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Obviously. We are financially intertwined with Games Workshop, so when you spend money there, it helps us. I am being facetious here in case you couldn't tell, because there's probably people who actually believe that.
Okay. So let's go ahead and cut the Techno-Archaeologist in this version.
Okay.
So we've got the 2 transports. Let's cut 2 of the Infiltrator units.
Okay.
Down to 1. Because we have Clandestine Infiltrator and the redeploy.
Got it. Do we need 6 squads of Vanguard?
We'll come there.
I think we're going to need those points in a second, but yeah.
All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is the Radium Giselle variant. We could go for Iron Striders. They can't access the 5 of Phenopane, unfortunately. They get stealth.
Why not?
Because it is only...
Sicarian, Taraxi, or Sidonian. Weird.
So we can't do Iron Striders, but we can do the brand new unit, Sidonian Dragoon with Radium Giselle.
Okay, this might not be a great investment, to be honest with you, because it survives not off doing anything, but purely off of being so cheap that it's ridiculous.
These things are 45 points a model.
Yeah, if that ever changes, right? If it ever becomes the case where they are not priced like a ridiculous stat line, they don't have the stat, like... If they're not priced ridiculously cheap, then they don't have the stat line to back up a reasonable price.
Like I said, I think 9 Dragoons is a perfect amount, and you can be happy running 9 Dragoons. But...
Magnetize your models. If you're going to 18 Iron Striders, magnetize them so they can be Iron Striders if you need them. Please.
I don't think we're fitting 3 of the units, though. We'd have to cut...
Not with that attitude, for sure.
Okay, so if we want all 3, we need to cut 125 points. From this list, which could be just cutting the 10 sterilizers and being like, it's cute tech, but we don't need it.
All right, in that case, it sounds like we're going to 15. I like the sterilizers to actually just, like, flame people.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yes,
so, in that
magnetize case, your walkers, please, 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 please. Because the last thing I want is for you to run into problems because you took a bunch of Radium Giselle guys and they went up 10 points a model and now they're unplayable. I think you probably run, what, 3 into 2?
Yeah, you probably do 3. Because the thing is, you want to throw this out as the first thing. Your opponent puts their big guns out, brings them up into range, and then you start tying them up with the Dragoons, who can actually do some amount of damage. But you could do 3, and then so like instead of one of these 2-mans, do 3x3. You could also do a 3-man, a 2-man, and a 1-man, and just have the 1-man hang out in the corner and do actions and nonsense.
You could also cut a Vanguard. How many points do we have left in this list? 5?
10 points.
10? You could cut a Vanguard and go to 3-3-2.
Yep, you totally could cut a Vanguard and you get 90 points, you get 2 more.
Let's
do it for the sake of it.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I feel like we're honor bound to try to get the last one in there. I'm just saying. It's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's not happening in this one, but it is a very cool thought because now we're at exactly 2,000.
Yeah, we would need to cut. We need to cut 45 points, which doesn't exist. We could cut a Vanguard squad, and we end up with 35 points we can't spend. We can cut Rangers, and we don't have sticky objectives. We end up with 45 points we can't spend. There's a lot of problems there.
Now, for 2 reasons, this is the only detachment that I would really run the Radium Giselle version. The first reason is, once again, they can access 5 of Phenopane. They're Sidonian. That's fantastic. That's super durable. Because it's 7 wounds at T7, 3 up save, 5 up invul, -1 to hit from stealth. 5 of, then you throw the strat on there. Okay, the other reason that I like them is because you can actually add... The Dragoons with Taser Lances have native advance and charge inbuilt.
Yes.
These guys can get it with the 1 CP strat. So they can go up and still tie things up pretty effectively.
Yeah, their bases are wide enough that with coherency you can cover a lot of the board.
Yep.
Like you run up, you charge, you just whoop.
And it doesn't matter that they basically do no damage. They are literally there to just tank and tie things up. A lot of armies don't have fallback and do stuff. So even against some of their killer units, you can still charge in there. It doesn't die with the 5 of Phenopane, and they're stuck there. And you just buy yourself time while you control all the objectives. And as soon as your opponent's like, oh no, these 10 guys who are holding down the middle, I really need to kill them. Loan up. No.
Especially if they physically can't get within 12. Because
Exactly.
you are boxing them out with Sidonian Dragoons. They can't get within 12, you're like, stop.
No.
You cannot shoot this problem away. You have to get close to it.
Exactly. And if you're move blocking them towards their end of their deployment zone, then you're doing exactly that. So.
Well, Draxus has been recommended in all 3 lists.
She is very good if you can throw her into an Imperium battle line unit that gets a bunch of buffs.
Yes, and Admech and Custodes are, I think, the only ones that do that.
Yeah.
Like, Sisters don't really get buffs on their battle line, actually, at all. Custodes get great buffs on their battle line. Grey Knights, depending on how it... I didn't even try this, because I didn't want to have to get into the nitty-gritty. You lose some amount of your rules if you attach a model without deep strike to the unit.
Yeah.
How many of them you lose, I wasn't really willing to get into the nitty-gritty on.
Yeah. But, like, in this detachment, she gains access to potentially +1 AP. In Admech, she can get an additional AP because she's shooting at something in your opponent's deployment zone in Conqueror. She can get access her unit to advance and charge, which is cool. You can loan up her unit normally if her thing fails and you really need to keep the unit alive. When she gets out of the transport, she can get reroll wounds, ignores cover from the unit, from the Omni specs. There's a lot of reasons why she is just a very good shooty unit, but then it gets put over the edge because of all these extra buffs. And her unit gains stealth because she's in a Skitari infantry unit. There's just many reasons why you would want to run her.
Yeah.
So I think she's fantastic in this type of archetype. And like I said, it lets you... She can string back a bit farther, be with that 18-inch loan op, and then you have a 12-inch closer. Yep. And so you can have 2 instances.
She's just great. She's just really good.
So you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to go for this version. You can cut all the Radium Giselle ones, get more troops, get more transports, and get more Sakaran infiltrators, etc., and go that direction. Or you can go for this version and just have so much beef. Yes, you do give a pretty much automatic bring it down, but it's kind of like Tau, where at the end of the day, if the Tau player, or in this case the Admech player, is just winning primary by a good margin, yeah, your opponent's probably getting like 35 on secondaries. You're going to get somewhere between like 28 and 35 yourself. And then, boom, you dominated primary in such a difference that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to go for.
All right. Well, I think that's us for today.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the different lists, what you were building towards, and please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps. And if you want to see an army, I haven't run the Radium spam version yet because I have to build those, but I have run 9 Dragoons a couple times, and 2 Skitarii Hunter cohort games are showing up in the War Room next week, one against Death Guard, one against GSC. So if you want to check those out, please do sign up, thewarroom.vhx.tv, and there's a 3-day free trial on there. You can also sign up on our YouTube channel as well. The gold tier will get you access to all of those, and also our awesome Discord community, where you can submit your list every week for Fix My List, and we rotate through them, so not sure which one's next week, but we're going to go through Chaos, Imperium, we do Xenos, and then sometimes we do special ones on particular factions.
I can look up which one's coming up.
Cool.
All right. So this one's Imperium. Next one is Space Marines.
Space Marines.
And that'll be me and John.
Yep, that'll be you and John. So should be exciting. There's a lot of different Space Marine builds right now. And funnily enough, the Vanguard list, Space Marine Vanguard list, kind of does play like this one. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed this one, and we will see you all next time. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.